Hello. I am really kind of excited this morning. I am going to do an ink comparison. I was just sent these brand new Color Hive inks from Maker Forte from over at ScrappyShak. Melanie has put together a pretty fantastic design team, if I do say so myself, and I get to be one of those people. There are 3 other amazing makers on her team, and we all were asked to take a look at Color Hive inks. Now, we all know that we love, beyond love, Tim Holtz Distress ink, and I will say that that's probably the most prevalent ink in my studio. I have all of it. I have the Archivals. I have, we'll leave it at that. I have all of it. Probably not to my husband's fancy, but I do. And so what I wanted to do was grab out some of the blacks that I have and do a comparison with this Eclipse black. I love a good black, and I'm always on the lookout for the best one out there. So we're gonna do kind of 2 things today. I'm gonna swatch these 3 colors that I have. We're gonna look at this black. We're gonna compare it with Extreme Black by Maker's, I can't talk today. We're gonna compare the Maker Forte Eclipse Black with Extreme Black by My Favorite Things, which is probably my go-to. We're also going to compare it to Archival and then just the regular Distress. I don't think I have the regulation pad in the regular Distress. I know I do in the oxides, but since this one is a water-based ink, I thought I would go with the ones that probably would be closest in design. So we have, and this one does say that it is for alcohol marker coloring. This one, which is the My Favorite Things, which is my go-to, is also compatible with alcohol markers. I use black soot if I'm going to alcohol marker and use that. And then we do have the acid-free, and I'm not sure if it says on it that it works with alcohol markers. Since there's not an alcohol marker in the Distress line, I'm not even sure it would say that. And I've never used it with it. It does say that it's permanent, waterproof, and fade proof. It's a multi-surface ink. And you can heat set it on all surfaces. So we're gonna take a little look. We're gonna do those things, alrighty? So let's start by getting these open. So one thing I noticed when I got them is they're not completely shrink wrapped. It's just around the edge, and I actually kind of like that. It makes getting into things a lot easier. So we're gonna open this one. This one is Icy Mist, which I thought would be really pretty with Christmassy things coming up, kind of thinking forward. This one is called Bubble Tea, and it kind of had a pinkish color to it. Ooh, okay. I'm just now getting these open and looking at them. This pad is really juicy. I'm not sure if you can see in that lid, but there's a lot of ink in the lid too, which is probably from me smushing on it. But okay, there's that one. And then let's get this black one open. So a couple of things I'm noticing straight off. And I wanted this to be kind of my honest opinion as I'm looking at these for the first time. The first thing I've noticed is these are an octagon, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, they're an octagon, which is a unique shape. So, you know, we're used to our stamp pads being rectangular or the cubes, but this one is an octagon, and I kind of like that. I've always been intrigued by the Catherine Pooler inks that are the oval shape. I don't own any of them, but they've always been intriguing to me. So this one is as well because of the different shape. Let's see. Another thing I noticed is that they are stackable. So they will stack into each other. There is a, and I'm not exactly sure how much you're able to truly see because they're black. You do have this raised lip that allows them to slide into each other and stack. There is also a fairly wide piece that would allow me to label them. so that I could keep up with the colors and maybe have them as a stacked palette. I really am excited to get to use these. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to take some tags, and somewhere over here to my planning side, here we go. These are just the distress tags. This is the small one. This is the big one. I'm going to do my black comparison here. These are small ones. What I thought I would do is pull a stamp that is a red rubber, and then also pull one that is a photopolymer. And so we are going to do some stamping with both of these. Some of the things that I really look for in a stamp is, or in an ink pad, is the ink's ability to stay where I want it to stay. So let me see if I can make that make sense. When I'm stamping a sentiment specifically, I don't want it to bleed. I don't want there to be any run. I don't want it to smush. I want it to just be solid and crisp and beautiful. And so I pulled out, this is one of my favorite kind of current sets to make cards with, just because I love the huge hello. There is a die set that matches this. I just don't have it. So I do a lot of fussy cutting, but I love these extra little pieces even if I don't use the whole hello. And then I wanted something that could, if the ink ran or blended together when I didn't want it to, would bleed and not be as clean of an image. So I really love this one, and I also love the butterflies. So we're going to be doing some of that. I have some media grip down just because I don't want to tape things. I have not seen these in real life. It does say that it's a smushable ink, which makes me think that it would do really well with some of the smushing techniques. So that's what we're going to start with. I'm going to take one of these tags, and I'm just going to take it and drag it across. Oh my goodness, y'all. Did you see how that did that? This ink pad is not a felt pad. It is, okay, I'm going to have to do some research because I don't even know how to tell you what this is. It feels like it's a foam. Oh, but I love how that's smushed. All right, so it also says it's water reactive. So let's grab out just my water. See what happens. Ooh. Can you see it starting to move and spread out? Look at this. Look at that pull. Do you see that? Oh, let's see if I can hit the edges and make it do it some more. Oh my goodness, y'all, look at that. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm screaming. But I'm really excited because this is not a distressed ink product, so that gives me some additional colors. Yes, I know. There are some other things that go on. Let me clean up my mat real quick because I don't want to contaminate the blue, but I want to do the same thing. So what I'm really kind of liking about this at first look, first thought, is this little sucker is acting my hair, y'all, it's everywhere. This is acting and reacting a lot like Distress ink, how it pulls. I'm not seeing the water droplets as much when I smushed it. So let's dry this out some. Now, I did also do a heavy spray instead of a light spray. So that could be why I'm not getting water drops. But let me dry this out and see what happens. Again, this is a new ink to me. I've never played with this, but I love that they call it smushable because of that swipe. And that swipe to me feels very reminiscent of a Catherine Pooler. All right, let's try this with just some bigger drops and see what happens. I feel like I'm seeing some change in there. That it's not solid. Again, you're just, oh, it does. Look, 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 look. So when I hit it with droplets versus a big smush. Okay. Color Hive, you're impressing me. First thought out of the box is, I may need more of these. Again, my husband's going to be like, yay, another whole collection of inks to collect. All right, now let's talk about stampability. So what I want to do is some color on color and see how this holds up. Y'all, I do apologize about my chair. It needs some WD-40. I can't find the WD-40, so it's a thing. Alrighty, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to take this and I'm going to ink it. I'm not going to put it on a block because I just want pieces of it. So let's see what happens. All right, one thing I'm noticing right off the bat is this is a very juicy pad. So I'm not having to like dig in to get it inked. I am getting ink on the edges here. That may be because I am used to, you know, say a distress pad that is the felt covered pad and it doesn't depress as easily, maybe is the right word. Let's see what this does. Okay, I'm liking the color on color. Okay, I really like that. I like how that stamps. It also cleans off my fingers very easily. Let me grab my stamp cleaner and let's clean this stamp off. I'm gonna hit it with water and then put it over in my stamp cleaner. This is just one of those chamois cleaners. I think Lawn Fawn is the most common one. This one I think is probably from Stampin' Up. I am an equal opportunity purchaser. All right, so there's that. Now I want to take a butterfly and see what happens if I just do one of these little end butterflies. All right, so because this is an octagon, I was able to line it up and really only get the butterfly that I wanted. Let's see. Oh, I like this. All right, so far I'm really impressed with this ink. And y'all, I'm a hard sell on ink. I own all of the Distress line. I own all of the Stampin' Up line because for years I was a demonstrator. And I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I need any more ink. But I am always willing to try and give you my opinion because I don't mind telling it like it is. So far, I'm really liking this. I am liking the way that when it's smushed, it's giving me tonal qualities. I'm liking that when I don't hose it down with water. Now, when I hose it down, it gave me that fabulous drip. But when I just spritz it and get drips, I'm getting really pretty drips. Okay, so I'm really liking this. Now, let's clean just real quick. Make sure that we have no pink. And let's get out Icy Mist. Let's see what Icy Mist does for us. So we're going to do the same steps. We're going to swipe. I'm going to hose down an edge so we can see what the drip looks like. And then we will do droplets. We'll do just the same steps over again, all right? All right, so here we go, Icy Mist. That is a really pretty color. I'm really kind of excited to see what this one does tonally. You know, that tone on tone. So like this one, I don't know, this is a beautiful color of pink. It is not baby pink. I'm not even sure what you would call it, but I like how when it tones out a little bit, it's not pinky pink, but I don't know. This is a gorgeous color. So Maker Forte, if you're listening, I love bubble tea. Love it. It is a gorgeous pink. All right, so let's see. We're going to swipe. Again, it grabs beautifully. Swipes. Because of the shape, this time I paid a little more attention and got more on the edge. And so I'm just going to dot some of that. Pick up that ink on there. All right, let's hose down this end and see if we can get it to bleed. There it goes. Ooh, look at how cool that is. You see it moving? Ah, I love it. All right, let's dry it up a little bit. Because I hit this differently with water, it's not wicking the same, but I don't hate it. I really kind of like it. So I feel like in this blue that I'm seeing, which is called Icy Mist, I'm gonna have to get used to this name, Icy Mist, I really feel like It's almost giving me a weathered wood vibe. If you have distress and you like weathered wood, it's like weathered wood, but darker, if that makes sense. Not sure if I'm making sense with that. All right, let's get some drops on here, see what happens. Alrighty, now we got some drops going. Ooh, I'm liking what this is doing. Do you see what it's doing here? Look at that. See those? Oh, I love it. It reminds me of if you watercolor paint and you drop salt on watercolor, how the salt will draw the color out. Yeah, I really like this. Look at all that. This is really fun. Okay, let's dry those little droplets up. So far, I am loving these, and I'm going to have some more colors because 2 is just not going to be enough in my world. I really love this swipeability. I'm really thinking that that's going to be huge, especially in color matching. So not having, or not currently owning, I don't know much about this line and what all is going to be coming and what all they're including in it, but not having a cardstock that matches, you know, that's Stampin' Up's thing, and I think Close to My Heart is the same way. They are big on everything matches. And so the cardstock and the ink and all the things match, right? So I love using this color swipe, just the smush of the ink pad onto paper to get that matching color. I do not get as pretty of a swipe using my distress inks. And that, I think, is just because of how they're made. And I'm okay with that. Let's see. So this is Stormy Sky. You can see Stormy Sky is, this kind of reminds me of that weathered wood vein. But if I try to color swipe this ink, because it's a felt pad, it doesn't do the same thing. It's not the same, but these blend beautifully. In a minute, ooh, we're gonna have to blend. We'll flip these tags over and we'll blend here in a minute with some blending brushes. I wanted to try the swipeability because it says that on the packaging. All right, let's see. Make sure that's kind of dry. Now let's ink it up. I'm still getting a little bit on the edge. Again, I think that may be a user error just because I'm not used to this shape and I'm not used to this type of pad. All right, pick this little sucker up, flip him over, smush him down. Now this is interesting. So I'm noticing on this one, the color over is not as distinct. Do you see that? So here in the pinks, this stood out a little more than that one did. That's interesting. Again, not a bad thing. One of the things that I think is super important when we're working with a product is knowing what that product is going to do. So, you know, Bob Ross used to say, there are no mistakes. They're all opportunities, you know, and he would talk about happy trees and different things that, you know, he knew how to make his product work. And so I think that's kind of fascinating for what we're doing, is figuring out how this ink works, because I've never used it before. All right, so there's the blue. So these down here were the dots, remember, that I picked up off of the mat. And so they are really dark compared to the ink. They're really kind of dark, and I really like it. I'm loving how this works. I know I've said that. All right, now let's do some blending. We're going to start with blue because that's what's all over my mat, and I've got it all over the back of everything too. All right, grab a blending brush. See if I can find one that's bluish. All right, we're going to start with the Icy Mist. We're going to ink up. This is definitely going to be one that has to build. It does not ink like your oxide inks, so I think that's going to be huge as you're using it and you're getting used to it. If you're going to blend, is it's going to take some inking up. This definitely inks more like a true dye-based ink, so more like the regular Distress ink. So if you like that creamy, dreamy, not smushability, that's not the right word, creamy, dreamy, I don't know what the word is. You know, if you've ink blended with these kind of brushes and oxide ink, you know what I'm talking about. It's just, it's like it moves. It has its own movement. This does not. This reminds me more of when I get out my Distress, regular Distress, and ink with those. It's just, it's a different feel, different look, different ending, just different. And I don't dislike that. I like having products that I can use multiple ways. All right, let's sync up this little stamp and get him stamped on here. Again, I'm just embracing the freeness of not being on a block. Alrighty. That's very interesting. I really like the blended portion here under the stamped portion. I really like that. Now, here's something that was interesting, and I don't know if you noticed it up here in the corner. When I pulled the ink off, this went very light because I had pulled the ink out of it. It has almost re-inked itself. I don't know if that's making sense. I can still see some lightness in the middle, but the edges have darkened back up. So they have done something with their ink and their suspension system in here to always keep the ink up towards the top. Let's see if I can get this corner to do it. So here we're going to lighten it out. You can see where I've pulled the ink from it. Just adding a little more on here because I don't want to waste the ink. And you're starting to see it pull back. That is very interesting. Very, very interesting. All right, those all need to be cleaned. All righty. Now, let's dive into talking about black inks. So we're going to clean up real quick. If I remember, I'll cut this part out. So if you like this little review of ink that I'm doing and you have other inks you think that I should review, please put that in the comments and let me know. I also would love to have you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on anything that I share in the future. It's that whole ring the little bell thing down at the bottom, you know, that people do. And then you can also check this out over on my blog. If you are on the blog watching this, if you want to head over to YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel and see it there. All right, so that was looking at the Icy Mist. Let's see, turn them over. The Icy Mist and the Bubble Tea. I really love this color of Bubble Tea. I'm loving this. I love that you can smush it on, that you can add water and it reacts. I love that it pulls like watercolor does. I also liked the way that it blended. When it blended, I know that when I was talking about it, it made it sound like I probably didn't. I really do. I like this lighter look that you can achieve that you can't always get with your oxide inks, which is what I tend to blend with the most. I do use these super cheap, got them off of Amazon brushes. If you guys would like to know the link, I will link a link down below once I figure that out. Again, I am low tech, so this is kind of the best that you get sometimes. All right, let's dive into, where did I put my bigger tag? All right, let's dive into looking at this against some blacks. Now, how are we going to do this? I know. Let me grab another stamp set. All right. So this is Stampers Anonymous. These are the brush strokes. We're going to do this to, let me grab that one. All right. And again, we're going to take a look at these beauties against the Color Hive Eclipse Black. I don't know. When I think of Eclipse, I think of very, very dark. So I'm hoping that this turns out to be a very dark black. Something else that I want to do is I want to use a stamp positioning tool because I really want to be able to look at maybe doing this more than once and what that might look like. Oh my goodness. I went and got my nails done, and y'all, I never do my nails. And so now it's like nothing wants to cooperate. Alrighty. Let's do you there and you here. Maybe. Alright, so we're going to start up at the very tip top with the Eclipse Black. Alright. So we're out of camera. We're just going to ink this little up. Ooh, that lid sticks. Same pad, so it's still that foamy pad. That's going to be interesting. Ooh, 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 ooh. I like how this is going on. Super juicy coming out of the package. Put that down. Smush a little. All right, so that's one inking. That's what we'll do. We'll do one ink each and then clean it off really good. All right, so that was one inking. Let's make sure I can get all this Eclipse Black off. Sorry for the squeaky sound. All righty, so that's off. Let's go down one. And let's do the extreme black next. We'll save the two distress for the end. All right, so this one is a felt pad, and I can already tell putting the felt pad on the stamp that it is a very different feeling. It's not smushy, if that makes any sense. Using the Color Hive, it was definitely, there was more of a smush to the ink. Alrighty, let's see what one inking of that does. Okay. Let's get this off. I will say one thing I've noticed about my extreme black is it's not the easiest to get off my stamps. And so a lot of times there's residue. And for this video, I don't want there to be any residue because I don't want to contaminate the next ink. So this is interesting. Alrighty, next up, we're going to do Archival. This is, for me, I use this a lot as a finishing ink. So like if I have stamped something and I come back over it, this is the ink that I use. It is, oh, you know what? I've been showing y'all those off camera. That's fantastic. Eclipse Black, one inking. My favorite things, Extreme Black, one inking. And here we go. Distress, Archival. That's this one. Get these turned all back around where we can see them. All right. So far, I feel color-wise that Eclipse Black and Black Soot may be closer, and Extreme Black, not as much. All right, where is my stamp cleaner? All right, let's get some of this black off. Sorry, I'm doing this off camera, but as you saw a minute ago, in my infinite wisdom, I shifted it so you could see what I was doing, and I forgot to shift it back for the reveal, and so that was Classic. Classic Karen. Alrighty, let's see. That should be good and clean. Nothing's coming off on my hand. Now let's go for this one. Now, because this isn't regulation, I'm going to have to really work to get the ink on it. So this is my favorite way when I'm using this is I call it the tap and turn. What I don't know is if that's going to affect the darkness. You know what? I did not move that stamp down. So instead, we're going to move the tag up. And that's going to move it over, though. Y'all. And people wonder why I don't do lots of videos. Well, this would be why. Chaos ensues. That's not going to be up far enough. Let's try that. Still not up far enough. Oh my heck. At this point, it is what it is. Alrighty. So we're going to press this one down. Again, my favorite technique using these are the smush and twist. It's kind of like a tap, 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 twist, tap, 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 twist. And I do think it made the ink be darker just because of how it inks. So here we go. We have Extreme Black. No, we have Eclipse Black, Color Hive Eclipse Black, Extreme Black. Then we have Archival. Then we have just the regular Distress Black Soot. Again, I really think this one looks the lighter of the crew, which is interesting. Could also mean that mine needs to be re-inked. I mean, yeah, re-inked. That's always a possibility because I use it a lot. Yeah, all right. So next, we're going to clean this up real quick. Just taking this squeegee and getting the excess color off to where it comes off somewhat clean on my fingers. Alrighty, we're gonna put the Misty back up. I've also been thinking about doing a stamp tool video. We'll see how that goes. All right, now my fingers are good and black from working with these. Some of this ink off of them. All right, so let's make some notes here real quick. So this top one is Color Hive Eclipse, E-C-L-I-P-S-E, black. This one is My Favorite Things, Extreme Black. Then we have Distress Black Soot. And this one is just Distress Black Soot. Alrighty. So there we go. I don't know how well the camera is picking up color variation. That is one thing that I am never 100% sure of because I know how much goes into it. I know that whatever my color settings are in the phone affect it as well as your monitor or phone settings. But in this kind of really dark area of the stamp, which is where it lightened up in the extreme, I'm really kind of feeling like this may be the darkest black. All right, let's flip this over and let's stamp some words and see what we come up with. All righty. So we're going to do the same thing except I am going to put this on a block because I tend to stamp sentiments from a block. Now, this is a Tim Holtz block. So if you've never seen them, they're super thin. I like to put it on one end so that my fingers are out of the way. Tim calls his pork chop fingers. Mine are just big. Okay. All right. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take this and stamp it. Again, I'm noticing a lot of ink very quickly around the edge. Here is my friend in Hive ink. Okay. Not gonna lie, I really like how that stamped. Really, really liked how that stamped. That, my friends, was super easy. It's not bleeding. It's not bleeding out from where it stamped, even though it was super juicy. All right, next up, my buddy here, the Extreme Black. I'm gonna get out of the middle of this pad and see if maybe that's why it's... All right, so the difference that you're seeing here is with the felt pad, it's not as, the squishability factor is not there. So I'm not getting ink on the edge of my stamp. We're gonna stamp this little guy down. Definitely not as black. And you can look at that and it's like, yep, not nearly as intense. Again, could be that my stamp pad needs to be re-inked. It is my kind of go-to every day, and I did just work with it over the weekend and do a bunch of stamping. Now we're going to do Archival. This is our next little friend. Here he is again. Felt pad, nothing on my edge. He's looking a lot like this. I've got all kinds of thoughts going through my head. Questions, really. Like, this is photopolymer. The others that we were stamping with was red rubber. Does the photopolymer affect felt pads and their ability to ink, where it doesn't necessarily with this Maker Forte pad that is more of a foam? Again, just questions, not right or wrongs, not good or bad, just questions. So let's see. Now we're just going to go with the regular dye-based Archival. I mean, dye-based, not Archival. Regular Distress dye-base. Let's see what this little guy does. Now, something else is the only pad I have under here. I'm on my glass mat. I have a piece of the media grip and then my tag. So I don't have very much of a soft stamping surface. There's not a lot of give. You know, when you work with a red rubber stamp, you have the foam, which allows some give and allows for a great impression. This one does not have that foam because it's photopolymer. I like it because I can see it. I have it lined up on the grid, so I know that I'm straight-ish. But again, all of those things play into getting a clean image. Now, this is what's interesting to me. The archive, why do I keep calling it Archival? This is the Distress down here. And then the Color Hive is up here at the top. The Color Hive is definitely darker. It's also a brand new pad, and the rest of them are not. So, again, things to be thinking about as you're looking at this video and going, should I get it or not? These pads have not been re-inked recently. So, I don't want to say that they wouldn't be darker because I just don't know. I'm not even sure I have a re-inker for this one or this one. I know I have this re-inker. I might have these. I don't know. I don't know. It's giving me something to think about. When I go back and do the blog post, I will see what re-inkers I have and see if we can't do that. But for now, this was the Archival. And it is definitely the lightest of the four. I really love how this stamped. Now, let's see. It says 4 alcohol marker coloring techniques, which makes me wonder, perfect for all your alcohol marker coloring. No heat, fast drying, non-blending. This ink will not react with alcohol markers at all. All right. So on the hybrid pad, it says, featuring hybrid ink, which means that it is dye and pigment together. This all-purpose craft ink blends the best of both pigment and dyes into one ink pad for the art that makes, for fine art that looks like pigment ink but dries like dye ink. Remember, that's this one. Okay. Acid-free, archival, non-fading, fast-drying, waterproof on paper surfaces, heat set on all other surfaces, raised felt pad, any size stamp, crisp, non-bleeding impressions. All right, let's look for bleed. I am not seeing bleed on any of them. Again, I am really impressed with this. It's making me wonder. I have all the thoughts. This is the problem of doing this and doing a video, is that then I get all the thoughts and I can't always act on the thoughts. And I don't know if I have any alcohol inked. Oh, I do. Yay. Alrighty. Oh, all right, so these are alcohol inked backgrounds, and when I've stamped over something like this, I've always used this ink pad. What I am wondering is how this will do. So, I'm not sure what size this is, but we're going to cut this down to a card front. We're going to cut it down to 4. By 5 1/4. And that gives me something that I could mat out. All right, let's try. Not part of what I had planned, but let's roll with it. Let's see what happens, because I'm curious. I know I can stamp again, my mouth is not working. It's not functioning. I know I can stamp archival ink onto this. I've done it 1,000 times. This is the new one. This is the one I want to find. Hello. I want to find out about. If you're wondering, this is the 2.0. Oh my goodness. See, y'all. This is 2.0. I do like media grip in here, just to help hold things down. I like the corners because it gets it out of the corners. Alrighty. We are going to stamp this way. Smack dab in the middle. Yep. All right. Pick up the image. Let me check and make sure it's straight. Ish. Straight enough. We'll call that good. All right. So now what we're going to do. Oh, I hate when it does that. All right. So this was not a prepped image. Again, I was not planning on doing this. So when I put it down on that, it pulled all kinds of stuff. And now we're going to try to clean it off. All right. We should be golden. I don't think that's going to cause issues. All right, so this is just an alcohol inked background that I did a while ago. Get that so it's caught in. We are going to grab the Hive ink. Paper that I am using is alcohol ink cardstock. I don't have any Yupo, so I have some of this, quite a bit of that. So that's what I'm using. I don't do a whole lot with alcohol inks, so I love the look. All right, so this does give a lot of overflow. This is going to be interesting. All right, back in frame, and let's smush it and see what happens. I'm going to use my press. All right, just to let you know something that's coming, I have on the schedule to do a review of a new stamp press. I'll just leave it at that. I won't tell you which brand. This is just one that I bought off Etsy. All right, let's see. Now, is that me and user error, or is that the ink? You guys are just learning along with me. Definitely not crisp on that edge. Let's see if I can get it. Now, I do know that it is going over some of the mixatives, and that could be an issue. I know what it is. Oh, hello. Hello, world. Hello. Photopolymer stamp. No insert. You have to put this in when you have photopolymer stamps. Y'all, is it me, or is this like crafting disasters? Crafting disasters 101. Now, here's something that I do like about the Misty. Watch if I can get it to cooperate. Again, if I can get it to cooperate. Slide that in to the corner. Slide my corner in. Put this back down in the corner. Put the other corner in place. We are going to re-ink it. Y'all. Why didn't somebody scream at me? You don't have the foam in. Now let's see what happens. I do have a video coming on a new press, and maybe in that video I won't forget to put the foam in there. Okay. So it did it. It was the foam. It was not the stamp. It was user error 100%. Look at how strong that color is. All right, what did it say? It says no heat, fast drying. I don't know. To me, it feels like it needs to be heated. So we're going to heat it. Because I am stamping over alcohol ink, not using alcohol markers with the ink. All right. Okay. I really like how that looked. Not sure if the intention was to be able to stamp over alcohol ink. It's not bleeding. It's not pulling. It is going to take a minute to dry. I can see where it's drying If you look right down here at the bottom of the H, you can see where it's drying. I really like that. That is gonna make a pretty card front. All right, let's get this stamp cleaned up. Again, my overall first impression of the Color Hive inks is that I really, really like them. As you've seen, I've had lots of user error, things that I should know better. Y'all look at my fingers. Lots and lots of user error. All right, so that's cool. It cleans up really easy. Off the manicure. Yep. Cleans up beautifully. So that'll be a nice, easy hand wash. So let's recap real quick. Set this aside. Out of my way. All right, so we did a couple of things. First thing we did was we smushed the bubble tea and the Icy Mist. So we just stamp pad straight to paper. Then we hit it with water to see if it would draw the ink out, which it does beautifully. Then I added droplets. Then we went back and stamped over in the same color to get a tone on tone. The last thing I did was ink blend with it and then stamp over it. And I really like this look. All right, then we did the whole, let's talk about the black inks. And we compared to some of my favorite black inks. This one is definitely going in the black ink drawer to be used. I'm loving this color. I'm also probably gonna re-ink my other black inks because that could be an issue too. But I really love it. I love the way that it's stamped on a photopolymer, which is totally different than how these others stamped on a photopolymer. So I don't know a lot about this ink brand. I am learning on the fly. This may have been created with photopolymer ink or stamps in mind versus red rubber. I know that Tim, when he does his stuff, he loves the red rubber, so I'm sure that's a consideration. He's never said it, but just knowing that his preference is a red rubber stamp, I would not be surprised if they don't take that into consideration as they're working on the ink formulations. I was very surprised that the My Favorite Things Extreme Black was as light as it was. Again, it could mean that I need to re-ink it. I have been working with it a lot and it has not been re-inked. I love this ink pad that's in here. And look, there's the corner that we pulled the ink out of and it's already back to dark. So one of the cool things that I'm seeing about this stamp pad is the way that it was created. They are using technology to keep that ink suspended, excuse me, at the top. Love this. Love this. So I really kind of wanted to go in blind without knowing a whole lot about it. For the blog post, I'll do some research and dig into these. These are definitely something that I'm going to be adding slowly to the craft room. Trying to figure out how to get them in a couple at a time so my husband doesn't really notice. I will, as I finish up my Halloween makes, I'm sure I'll be using Icy Mist. Going into the Christmas makes, I can very much see me using bubble tea with some of the new distress sprays and things. I think this would be really pretty with some of those pinks in the distress spray line, the mica sprays and the crayons. So you will see these colors make their way in, and then I will be adding more. The last little thing that we did, because I wanted to kind of test out this idea of alcohol marker coloring and kind of really compare it against the Archival, which I know stamps over alcohol ink. We did this little hello card front, and I will finish that up. The ink is definitely much drier now than it was at the beginning. Again, because this is my first time doing it and we're kind of learning as we go, I don't know if the fact that this has pearls and mixatives in it if that affects the drying time. I don't even know, to be very honest with you, if the intent of this was ever to be stamped onto a glossy surface over alcohol ink, or if it truly was just the intent of it goes onto white paper, a porous surface instead of a non-porous surface, because this is non-porous. Remember, that's how the alcohol ink mixes and flows. I don't know that intent, but I am going to do my best to find out, because I think this is really cool. And they're absolutely right. Here at the back it says this ink will not react with alcohol markers at all. Well, it has not reacted at all to the alcohol ink underneath it. So I think that statement is 100% true. I love it. It's also the statement that made me wonder if it would do this. So here we go, trying it out, seeing what happens. This will become a card. This will be shown probably in the next week or so. I really think that's cool. Yeah, I really like this. So there we go. Color Hive. The newest ink has come into my life. I really love it. I really love a foam pad. I can't remember. We're just gonna pull one. Yep. So Stampin' Up! Pads are the same kind of foam pad, or they look like the same foam pad. This little sucker just got re-inked, so that's why it was sitting here. And that's why it looks like that. But what I also can't remember is if it's just Stampin' Up! I don't know if Close to My Heart has a foam pad. I don't know enough about some of the others. I do know that Stampin' Up's classic pads are foam, and I've always really liked the way that a foam pad stamps. I understand the reason for a felt covered pad. There is some science behind it. There's a lot of science behind it, actually. These to me need the stamp, the tap, tap, tap swish to get rid of the look of the felt on top, where these do not. Stampin' Up! Pads are some of my favorites. That's why I didn't get rid of them when I left as a demonstrator, and I still have every color that I ever owned in those. But I'm really quickly thinking these may become my favorite. I loved that resurgent of the ink back to the top, which is not something this pad does. So there you have it. There are my thoughts on the new Color Hive by Maker Forte. Again, I love them. I think they're going to be fantastic. They are definitely coming to my stamp room. I hope that you have enjoyed this kind of look at it, and that you will at least give them a try. At least go ahead and grab this black one, the Eclipse Black, see what you can do with it. I think it is absolutely fantastic. So until next time, I hope you've been inspired and you create something fantastic. See you later.